Welcome to the next episode of Dr. Kamini Rao's Masterclass.
We know our responsibilities. When we are carrying out our responsibilities, we need not panic. When we are failing in our responsibilities, we are not able to deliver what is expected by the people, expected by the government, then there is a fear. If it is within the framework of law, a person is supposed to get justice. He will get justice.
You were going to go into IAS or something like that.
I was recognized as a good student in every school I studied. In terms of discipline, in terms of hard work, in terms of studies. See, madam, what happened this way back in 2008 and 9 when Honorable Chief Minister Yediyurappa Prasad was there, Cisco called us to their office once. And that time they said how they can virtually interact with people from all over the world. There is no need of traveling. You can create video conferencing facilities, all those things. We thought that it may take some time, but maybe during this COVID situation, the technology usage has increased tremendously, both in the private sector and also in the government sector. There was a situation prior to 2018-17. In a month, 4 times we used to go to Delhi for some work. But today, I don't think in 4 months' time we don't even visit once, unless it requires a personal presence before a minister, before a secretary. There is no need of visiting any place. Honorable Prime Minister has inaugurated our recent IT conference recently on a virtual basis, and every function of government mostly on a virtual basis. It's happening all over the country, and that saves money, that saves time. Time also. Most important is time. Travel time is minimized. Money is saved. And I think it will become order of the day in course of time when people realize that it is helping. The purpose is achieved.
So COVID is not all bad.
Not bad in the sense on this point of thing. Otherwise, in terms of economy, we suffered quite a bit.
Yes.
We are not able to have the kind of revenues which state government used to get in the past. And that has to improve. That will only...
Maybe it will take another 25 years to achieve it.
It will take a couple of years to go back to the pre-COVID times.
You think only a couple of years?
Maybe. That's what, depending on situation all over the country and vaccine.
Do you think these vaccines are going to be efficacious?
I'm not a technical person, madam, but you must be able to understand vaccine better than me. Government is making their sincere attempts to get some vaccine, and international bodies are there. WHO is there, our ICMR. All these people validate whether vaccine is good or bad. I can only say that whatever government feels good is always backed by technical support from all these institutions. Then only government will introduce this into the market.
They're already ringing us up and saying that, how many people are there, how much vaccine do you need and things like this.
Yeah, but I think vaccination also need not be, I don't know, because as an administrator I can say that it can happen in a phased manner. You can identify the target groups who are vulnerable to this disease and they be vaccinated first. And thereafter others can come in. Or not that everybody should vaccinate at a time.
Same time.
Yeah. The phasing out can be done so that the pressure becomes less.
Absolutely. That's a very important thing. But again, coming back to this time, sir, there are times when you have to stay in the office much longer, and then you would have promised your wife that I want to go here or there. I mean, how often have you had arguments and fights that the time, you spend for family has not...
So this used to happen in the past, madam. Now, post my retirement, it is not that much of a pressure. Because there are other people in the government to take care of the responsibilities on a regular basis. So therefore, we can manage our timing so well, except very exceptional cases, some emergency happens and we need to be there. When schedules of Honorable Chief Minister warrants my presence there, then only we have that problem, otherwise not. In the past, yes, when some serious, when I was BBMP Commissioner, floods happen, rain takes place, some disaster happens, then you rush immediately and all our other things will be secondary. Our first priority is to ensure safety of the people, ensure that the responsibilities of the government are carried out first, and then other responsibilities will come secondary.
Have you ever felt, sir, that coming in from a middle class family,
Yes.
from Kolar, and then going through your studies, etc., obviously everything would not have been a success for you. There would have been a struggle. How did you manage those struggles and your aspirations not matching the expectations? And what was the mantra that you took to overcome these failures?
I can tell you, madam, whether it is rural area, urban area, education is a great leveler. If you are able to concentrate and study, whether you are from village or you are from urban area, it's the same. I have come across as a deputy commissioner children from Tirthalli government school getting ranks in 10th class. So they are not economically very sound, but the children knowledge is outstanding. So they are able to study. As deputy commissioner, I felicitated children from government school who have secured ranks. So this can happen. It's basically you have to work hard and focus, be focused, and have your goals, and you can achieve your goals. Only thing is there may be little constraints. Family support is needed at times. Maybe nowadays there are a number of institutions offering scholarships. Government is also offering scholarships. Government has opened a number of residential schools. I can tell you in the social welfare department, the number of residential schools which we have in Karnataka is the largest that any other state can boast of. We have the largest number of residential schools, hostels. Lakhs of children are benefited by that because their food, clothing, shelter, other minimum needs are taken care of by the government. Their job is only to study and come back to the hostel, again study. So they are more focused. The children are doing well, and they'll definitely come up. So that situation exists. Maybe during my time that situation was not there very much, but little effort from the family, support from the family, I could study and come up. And the institutions where I studied have offered me a great help because I studied in St. Xavier schools in Shivaji Nagar, which charged me 2 rupees fee per month, which was negligible.
Amazing.
The institution was a charitable institution. They never charged very high. It was affordable for a family like us. In St. Joseph's College was also charged very minimum. Those days in college the fee was 15 rupees a month. And those institutions have helped education in the city of Bangalore. And we are grateful to them because their focus was education and largely charitable. They are never for profit.
Not for profit.
Profit, non-profit organizations. You were mentioning about e-learning. E-learning
Yes.
is picking up very well with the technology that is available to us everywhere. I think e-learning will pick up quite a bit, like how we are video conferencing and virtual conferences taking place. I'm sure that with the dedication, combining the e-learning with a personal touch would go a long way in helping the children, particularly in remote areas where people cannot come and study in best of the institutions. Here you can ask the best of the teacher to teach.
Yes.
I had one person called Mr. Gopal Reddy. Professor Gopal Reddy was teaching history for us. We had one Professor B.R.A. Rao teaching logic and law. We had very good Professor Janardhan teaching law. These are the people we used to consider them as outstanding. And only limited number of people had access to them. With e-learning, you can spread their knowledge to lakhs of people through e-learning process. So that's what we are supposed to communicate. You say that he is the best teacher in Bangalore, he is the best teacher in Karnataka, he is the best teacher in India, and his knowledge is being spread to all over the world through my initiative of yours, whatever way you want to. And this intention is that you are taught by the best person.
Absolutely.
That message should go, and then there should be an interactive session, maybe weekly once, fortnightly, monthly. Students can come out with their doubts and then interact with that person. That person can sit for 3-4 hours in a studio and reply to the questions that are raised by the students, or the questions of the students can be recorded.
Yeah.
And then he can reply in a weekly basis. He can reply to all the questions. So that will maybe modifying the e-learning process to a higher level would contribute immensely for the education sector.
Yeah, I think so. So when you actually move through all the sectors, and I think that with this infrastructure and the social welfare department, was perhaps your very, very passionate kind of departments where you contributed immensely to it. But I, for one, feel that even to the housing department, you did do a lot. This LIG, MIG, and all this kind of things, you did fantastically well. Can you say a few things about that as well?
I will go in the reverse order, madam. You mentioned housing last. I'll start with housing, end with infrastructure.
Okay.
Housing sector, see today when you talk about housing, private sector built houses in Bangalore. There is no problem of housing, maybe private sector buying of houses. You can buy houses from anywhere, from mid segment to high segment in Bangalore city. Nobody goes to rural areas, nobody goes to districts, nobody goes to talukas, nobody goes to village. That's where government is supposed to go. Every human being who is born in this earth should have a decent dwelling for his life.
Absolutely.
And that helps is social development and also educational development of children. Socially, a person living in a good house can invite a guest to his house. A person living in a hut will always feel shy to invite somebody to his house. So, decent housing is a necessity of a human. Therefore, we took the responsibility through Karnataka Housing Board when I was commissioner to build houses all over the state. We took up 150 housing projects in a matter of 3 to 4 years. I don't think even a private sector will be able to implement 150 projects in a matter of 3 to 4 years. That is the strength of government. That's where we are, as government officials, should realize that we are much stronger than private sector.
Yeah, absolutely.
So therefore, we could implement about 150 projects covering about nearly 1 lakh housing projects, houses for various segments, and that too in taluka places and district places. And secondly, you talked about social welfare sector. Social welfare sectors, there's always a complaint from the parents and people saying that your hostels are not in good condition. Children's education is not proper. So they don't want to send to government hostels or government institutions. They would rather pay a fee and send it to private institution. I would say that government recruits people based on qualification. If you are not qualified, government doesn't recruit. A private sector can hire anybody. They are qualified or not qualified. If they have ability to teach, they'll hire them. Nobody is going to check their credentials. So therefore, what is lacking in government is infrastructure. That infrastructure we provided in a big scale in social welfare department when I was heading the social welfare department. Close to 150 residential schools, hostels were built during my time so that a decent building attracts children to come to the institution. So that's what exactly we did. And each residential school costed government close to 20 crores. That is the amount of money we spent on this. Plus, of course, there is a soft component that is training the teachers, empowering them. That also was happening, but that requires a little more focus now, which department will do. Thirdly, when you talk about infrastructure sector, I had the opportunity of working in public works department. I could request Government of India to support us in the national highways improvement, and they came in a big way and a lot of support came in. Today you can travel anywhere in Karnataka very comfortably in a 4-lane and 6-lane road and travel. Last night I was there in Shimoga. 6 o'clock I left. I came back at 11 o'clock in the night. I could travel comfortably because there is a improved road network available. So that improved road network, I can say that in the whole of India, Karnataka stands number 2 or number 3 in the whole of India in terms of road connectivity and road improvement. That we could take it up in a big way when I was there. Apart from that, we also took up improvement of ports, coastal areas, flood control. So all these measures were initiated through both Government of India support, through borrowings from ADB, through borrowings from World Bank, through state support. So combining all these 4 sectors, that is Government of India, World Bank and ADB and state support, we could enhance the coverage and increase the number of roads that we could take up. And that really helped, and that boosts the economic activity in the state, and people also find it very comfortable to do their business well.
Excellent. See, I've always said that whatever you take, you don't just leave it in the middle. You always complete it. Even if you have gone out of that job and into next job, you keep an eye on that particular project and say that it should get completed. And this is what I see, because the person who gets into the next job just leaves this and then just gets into that. And so the hand holding to the next person who comes in, and tells them where you have stopped and tells them also to complete it and follow it up till it's completed, very few
See,
bureaucrats would do.
government, as you rightly pointed out, takes its own time to implement the projects.
Yes.
Due to paucity of time, I'll give you only one example.
Yeah.
Gulbarga Airport, I was
That
DC.
was the one I was going to
I
tell
was
you.
Gulbarga DC when
Yes.
600 acres of land was required for construction of airport. In a short span of 3 to 4 months, I could acquire 600 acres of land, which is impossible under normal government
Yes.
rules. We could acquire 600 acres of land when I was DC Gulbarga. Then luckily for me, after almost 15 years, I became secretary PWD. And we could take up the construction of airport, and we completed the airport in less than 2 years. So now today you have flights to Gulbarga. Gulbarga is one of our very, very remote districts and backward districts.
That's got the most ministers coming from there. Yeah.
Yes, and now of course the air connectivity has really changed the scenario in Gulbarga. People are able to travel faster, come to Bangalore faster. And there is also a proposal to run a flight from Delhi to Gulbarga to Delhi.
Okay.
So naturally the connectivity will start improving. So I can tell you that, as you mentioned, that projects we don't leave out in middle.
Yes.
I did the land acquisition as DC. I executed the projects as PWD secretary, and the flights started in that city of Gulbarga. So it gives you a lot of satisfaction because
So you sit back and tell yourself,
Yeah.
that is what I did. So it's something that you feel very proud of. It's not that somebody has to pat you on the back and give you a medal, but the very fact that people and community is going to benefit because of that, that in itself is an award for you. Because this is what you've been a very quiet person, working behind the scenes all the time, always smiling, and yet there's so much colossal work having been done in the background. I feel that I've seen very few bureaucrats doing that, and this is why I feel that the expectations of the people today, of what all you've explained, I'm sure people will be more practical in what to expect from the bureaucrats because of the limitations and also of the practicalities. That is what I would say. That was the last one. That is the Gulbarga airport that I wanted to talk, and that is a beautiful thing that you've achieved. But I think it's a collective effort. Government support as well as the political support as well as the other agency support is all required. But then it also requires a person who can bring all these people together without any attitude problem, and that's also very important. And you've got that knack in getting all these people together, and that too in a circle, political circle, and those kind of circles. It's very difficult to find. To sort of massage the egos of people, very, very difficult. So I feel that if you were to say something to the viewers today and say somebody wants to become a bureaucrat, an IAS officer, IFS, or IRS, or whatever it is, what is your message to them?
See, first and foremost thing is one should have the focus. What exactly is your goal? Without having a goal, you can't achieve anything. I've interacted with a number of people, and there are people, not necessarily IAS. Somebody wanted to become a doctor, engineer, or something like that. You have a goal, not necessary that everybody should become an IAS. It's impossible because intake of IAS officers per year is 100 or 120 for the whole of country. Our state gets about 4 or 5 people. But you have lakhs of youngsters coming in, coming out of colleges. And therefore, every profession has its responsibilities and contribution that they can make it to the society. So therefore, one should have a goal that what one should become. You can also become a self-entrepreneur. You can get into self-employed. You can do. You can become a theatre person. You can become an artist. You can become a painter. Whatever it is. So if there is a goal should be coupled with hard work. I don't have to tell you, this is a regular mantra for any person who is supposed to do. And I am sure that coupled with these two, definitely one can succeed. One more thing is there is need for little support wherever it is possible. Family support in the system, whatever way the system can contribute. Sometimes people will get motivated in the college. Like for example, I was motivated very much in the college when I was in St. Joseph's. The principal used to talk about how we can improve things, how you can perform better. So those things, inputs can come from the society, it can come from the institution where you're studying. So all these things can mold the character and personality of a person. And if you are able to pick up good things from people, from right people, and that really helps you a lot than just wasting your time. When plenty of time is there, you spend time with the friends, waste your time. A youngster should spend those years very fruitfully. Not that they should sacrifice the whole comfort zone or whatever it is. They should concentrate more on their goals, work towards achieving those goals. Plus, you should also socialize, spend time with the friends, because these years won't come back again. The college days will not come back again. So that's exactly is required.
What about the children? Have they?
My elder one is doing some business, madam. He has got a couple of businesses. The younger one is little focused on doing some management studies, etc. So they are okay. They're fine.
Have they imbibed this kind of hard work from you?
Yeah, both have to work hard. They are working hard. They are working hard. Always parents' expectations are very high.
Even yours.
Everybody's. so sometimes we feel that they are not matching our expectations. But today's world is changed. So with the changed scenario, I would say that they are working very hard to achieve their goals. And I'm sure they'll be successful in life.
That's actually. What about your hobbies?
I used to spend time reading books here and there, and I used to spend some time on golf and all that. But once you get into government service, you spend more time in the government only. So very little time is spent on hobbies. But however, weekends I spend time with the families, see a movie, read some book, and more of spending time with the family. Perhaps I give more importance because a whole week we work in the government, and by the time you go back, you have no time for anything except relaxing. So therefore, mostly family time and reading, watching some movies, and then occasional golf, etc.
So if God gave you a boon and said, Mr. Lakshminarayan, you have another chance to live your life, would you like to change this?
It will happen, change will happen, madam. It is not just one person's effort, it is a combined effort of all of us.
Change your profession and want to do something
My
else.
profession.
Do you want to say that, oh, I wish I didn't do this and I could have done something else with all this experience?
I got an opportunity, God's grace, family support to work here. And I was very happy. Unless I see other sector, suppose a doctor, I will not be able to make a judgment on how a life of a doctor is. But I can say that I've been very happy working as a bureaucrat, and I don't mind working continuously. But an opportunity comes, we should also work in explore other areas and work for betterment of people, serve the people. And I'm sure now, of course, there is no opportunity, but if there is an opportunity, as you mentioned, I'll definitely work. There may be other sectors where I can continuously work from now onwards. Like, I can be involved with the people, I can work with the NGOs, I can work with the political system. So these opportunities exist. So I can always opt for any of these opportunities depending on circumstances. So ultimately you get pushed to circumstances. Like for example, recently BJP party tried to field me in one of the elections. So when opportunity comes, we'll definitely get in. So we need not push too much, but...
so any chance of becoming an MLA or an MP?
If an opportunity comes, I don't mind.
So, sir, you've been working with all political parties. Obviously, they're all the same in the evening. They all sit across and, they just talk, and whatever they talk on the stage is different. But how have you found these parties different? Because, you have to change with each of the parties. I know hard work is important, but the way you approach the attitude of people is different. So how did you find it different?
Madam, governments are not permanent. Parties change, governments change, chief ministers change. But as long as I was a bureaucrat, I was only focused on work. I never tried to get into a political field, a political scenario. But just post-retirement, I've been identified by Sri Yediyurappa ji to work with him as an advisor. Naturally, I am sort of close with BJP government, BJP party. That happens because I'm working closely with him. So it is inevitable because now I'm no more a bureaucrat. I'm partly with the government and partly with the political system. So therefore, I work for them. I work for the party, work for the government both. But before my retirement, my focus was work and nothing but work. So therefore, I have no conflict with any political party.
So that's good, because I think that is how things will actually go, a seamless kind of transfer from one political system to another political system.
It doesn't conflict because as long as you are not venturing into their area of
territory.
work.
Yeah. So it's been wonderful having talked to you on so many subjects, and you've been really candid about everything. And I think the viewers also have got a lot of insight, not only into the bureaucracy, but also about how the system works. Because many times there's a lot of myths and misconceptions, and in a very short time, you've been able to dispel quite a lot of these myths, and I hope that there is a clearer picture of what a bureaucrat goes through, because he's doing a balancing act from an aspiration of a citizen to what a politician wants as well. So I think you've managed your career extremely well, and you've come out in flying colors, and hopefully the next stage for you would be to get into the political system. And of course, when a person like you gets into the political system, certainly things are going to happen. And I hope with this masterclass, the political hierarchy is listening as well.
Yes.
And thank you very much for coming for this masterclass.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now you've heard Mr. Lakshmi Narayan. He's given his frank opinion of what is a bureaucrat's life. So it's not a bed of roses, nor is it a bed of thorns. He's given you the good side and the better side and the best side. So he's told you that you can become an IAS officer or an IFS or an IRS, but there are other courses to follow as well. And never fear of not achieving your goal in the first attempt. There are always many attempts to do it, and don't stop. Help is round the corner, and you never know how close you are to success when you give up. This is Masterclass for you, Dr. Kamini Rao's Masterclass. See you soon with the next episode.
I am Dr. Balasubramaniam, the founder of Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement. It was indeed a pleasure and a privilege to be part of Dr. Kamini Rao's masterclass. For a long time as a young student of medicine and later on as a practicing doctor, I knew that she was a very famous and renowned fertility expert. But today I learned that she is also fertilizing society with ideas of extraordinary people and their messages and the success stories that can inspire several million people. I am happy to have been a part of this show, and I am sure that many more such stalwarts will be spoken to and be part of this masterclass in the future.